Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Real Talk Show. It's your girl Dio in the building, and today I'm here with author, maternity neonatal vice president, of Waltham Forest and Newham, as well as social media content lady, as well as she wears many hats. Yes, that's right. Get used to it. Helena Morais,
Yay.
or as we say in Portugal, Helena Morais. Okay. So thank you so much for coming.
Oh, thank you.
It's great to have you. But we are going to start because I want to know how you got into everything.
Yes.
So tell me. Oh, and doula. Yes, let's not forget because that's the most important one. But yeah, how did your journey start? How did you get into all of this?
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for the introduction. That was amazing. I'll just correct that the MNVP, so maternity and neonatal voices in partnership. I mean,
voices.
the other one was nice as well. But,
Vice President is given. So voices, she is the voice. Yes.
And I am a doula in training at the moment, but I don't want to actually be a doula. I mostly am studying. There's this incredible course called Stillbirth Day, doulas, and I'm studying to really understand the different kinds of support that women deserve to have when they experience a loss, whether it's early pregnancy or later in their pregnancy. So how did I start this? Very unfortunately, actually, because I wish I wasn't doing this. But my first pregnancy ended in the loss of my daughter. She was stillborn at 36 weeks and 5 days.
Oh, so sorry to hear that.
Thank you. And I think just that fire in my belly, thinking this is not good enough, first of all, in terms of the lack of education that I had in my pregnancy, even though I thought I had the education. And then not only that, but the support after you experience a loss, you sort of just become so isolated. I'm all about humanizing baby loss. These are human babies. So let's speak about them as such and give them the dignity that they deserve, and families the dignity that they deserve as well. So my daughter, Myla Angela Helena Morais, she's the reason I do this. Thank you. Thanks.
Very beautiful.
Yeah, so she's the reason why I do this work, and I honor her. I mean, I pretty much, the content comes from wanting to have a reason to post every day, and she's the reason why I post every day, and it allows me to have that continued connection, that continued bond.
Yeah.
So I am grateful to be able to speak about her the way that I do, because many years before this, you wouldn't be allowed to.
Okay, so because of your loss, then you got into what made you get into the doula section of that?
So it started. So actually, initially it started with me creating personalized storybooks for babies who had passed away. And this is just, to have a keepsake, because you're not ever going to be able to speak about your baby. No one's going to ask you questions. So I thought something that has their name, something that has a little character that looks like them, different babies, different skin tone, different hair types, different hair colors. Representation is so important.
Yes.
And especially when we think about how within the Black community, I hate statistics, by the way, but this is the reality. Black women are 2 times more likely to have babies who die. And so, or whose babies die, not. And so I thought, and yet we're still not represented when it comes to like literature and things. You won't really see us.
That's very true.
So I thought, do you know what? Let me create this book. So it started like that. Then as I was posting regularly online, and what I was telling you before, where I do TikTok lives and things like that, just listening and hearing to women's stories, I started to become really indignated by like how wrongly people are treated, the lack of humanity. And so I thought, do you know what? Let me just do this doula training. So I understand not only how to support and talk about how to support mothers who experience the stillbirth of their babies, but how about mothers who experience really early losses, like, miscarriages.
Very true.
I mean, a pregnancy, no one really cares. It's sad to say this, but no one really cares about anyone who loses a baby before 24 weeks.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true.
And that doesn't sit right with me.
It is definitely something that gets neglected a lot because people don't really see it as a life. But as long as something is growing inside of you, I mean, that is a whole life. That's a whole baby. That's a human.
Exactly.
So it should be noted just as much.
Absolutely.
So, how do you then separate? Because obviously having a still baby and having not being able to see the baby, maybe, how do you differentiate that pain, or how do you apply that?
When you say not being able to see my baby, you mean like now? Obviously not being able to have her,
like
but
when people lose the baby earlier on rather than later
yeah, that's
on.
a very good question for someone who experiences a really early loss. And actually part of the doula training that I'm doing is actually talking about things where it's like, if you experience a really early loss and you don't have anything tangible, how do you dignify that loss, and how do you still represent the fact that you have lost a baby? And one of the things that they talk about is, you know, when you experience your pregnancy, when your baby's, your they call it passing pregnancy, which I don't really like that term, but I'll just say when you're essentially giving birth to your baby, even though it's really early, there'll be clumps of blood and tissue. And like you can, if you want, in this doula course, it's talking about you can retain that. And if you want to put it into like a plant pot or something so that you have,
that's
you know,
amazing.
when I read that, I was like, oh my days, yes.
And that's probably something that a lot of mothers don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people might look at that like, why would you do that? Well,
Yeah.
actually, why wouldn't you though? Because that is still a person essentially,
yeah.
depending on how people want to see it, right? It's all about the individual as well.
Yeah.
For example, with my daughter, we decided to cremate her and her ashes are in my house.
Wow.
So, you know, you would do that if a grandparent had passed away. Some people have ashes. No one says there's anything wrong with that, you know? So there's that. And also now the Miscarriage Association charity, they've been talking about having, I forgot the exact name for it, but essentially it's like a pot where when you are giving birth to your miscarriage, you can, it can be put there.
Oh, wow.
As opposed to just going to the toilet
Yeah.
and flushing it down.
Yeah.
the
That
toilet.
seems very...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so inhumane.
Yeah,
And the
that
fact that
seems-
this is not something that's been thought about before. Like it's
I know, and
it's
we're like
horrible.
in 2026, technology, AI, like all of this.
Tell me about
why?
it. I don't get it.
That's crazy.
And the thing is, this is why I get so frustrated, is because it's very clear, right, that it's got to do with patriarchy. Because a lot of the people who decide, I mean, the forefathers of gynecology are men, even
Yes.
though birth was something that women would do as a collective in a community. It didn't have to be this medicalized thing,
that's
right?
very true.
And so since they are the ones who decide the things, they're not really thinking about or care to think about someone who loses their baby, because they don't even know what that feels like. So there's not even the emotional connection of the things that should be in place to dignify and humanize something like that.
Wow. That's intense.
Yeah.
And I guess only if you've been through it can you relate. So it is very true. There should be more of a stage for these people, a voice for these people. And it's good to have people like you that are doing so. What are some, obviously you've had a loss. How do you separate your pain from someone else's pain? How do you keep your emotions?
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually, because a lot of the work that I'm doing now as well is being a bereavement facilitator. So sometimes I work for a charity called SLOW, which stands for Surviving the Loss of Our World. And essentially it's like a peer support group. And we have families who've experienced the loss of a child at any age. And we sit down and essentially we just share whatever is on our minds at that day. And I have to facilitate and hear some very horrific stories. I also do creative writing workshops in my local area for parents who've experienced baby loss, where we just, oh my God, it's such a beautiful space. We just write about for our babies, or we write about how we feel. If some people don't want to feel that connection because it feels too raw, they can just write about how they're feeling, how their grief feels. And sometimes when people are sharing their stories, it is really hard to not feel that. Of course you have to feel it, we're humans. But how do I separate it? That's such a good question. It's such a good question. I think just really empathizing for people's pain and validating their pain, but trying my best not to take that pain
Personally.
on as well, because then I've already got my grief and taken on other grief as well. It's very weighted, it's very hard, and then I feel like it makes it difficult to be able to actually support right somebody if you are taking the weight of their pain. I think it's more important to hold the pain and just honor whatever is being shared. Like if somebody has shared something, just ask more about it if they want to open up more. There's a training that I did earlier this year, and for example, sometimes people feel like when they experience the loss of their child and they say, it's my fault, I'm guilty for doing that. And naturally, the other person might say, it's not your fault, right? You had no control over it. But sometimes actually let the person express that they feel like it's their fault. Just ask them, why do you feel like that? And maybe it will be the first opportunity that they have just to open up about how they're feeling in that moment as to why they feel it's their fault. They let it out, and at least it's been said out in the open. Even if it isn't their fault, let them say it. And that was something that I learned in January. And I just thought, let's honor what's being shared.
Yeah, that is amazing, because I do feel, sometimes people just want to be heard.
Exactly.
So it is just a sense of letting them speak their truth. Even if it might seem like out there for someone else. But yeah, that's really important. So so you started writing the books for people. How was that journey?
Oh my God, it was amazing. It was amazing because after I lost my daughter, I very quickly had my son. So he's 2 now. And I remember when I was pregnant, when I had him, not when I was pregnant with him, it was very much like, now people will only see my son and completely forget that I had a daughter. And that was a very complex, very hard thing for me to deal with. I didn't want to, it felt, even just talking about it, it's just making me feel very sad because I was wrecking my brains trying to figure out, how do I honor them both? How do I make sure that people know that I have 2 children, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not a case that everyone, down the street needs to know I have 2 children. It's not none of that. But if somebody knows me well, or I'm getting to know people, how do I honor both of them? And it was when I bought him a personalized storybook from an incredible company called Wonderbly. I don't know if you've heard of them. And his name is Arinze. So already he's got a name that's not really common. So I thought, a little black boy, his name is Arinze. He deserves to have a book that sees him for who he is. Yeah. And when I got that book, the way I cried, I was crying. I was like, I'll never have this with my daughter. It was such a special moment with me and him. And I was like, I will never have that with my daughter. And one of the things that I wanted to share with her was books. I remember on TikTok, when I was pregnant with her, I made a video with the Beyonce countdown, and I had like a list of books that I was going to read with her. It was going to be Hair Love, it was going to be this, that, and the other. And like, I knew that books was going to be something that we'd have together. So I don't know, instantly the idea popped in my head. I was like, oh my gosh, I could make books where it's about her, right? I know I won't be able to share it with her, but that's an opportunity for her to be honored and for me to have her name there. And I did get in touch with the company first and say, do you guys do books for children who've passed away? I knew they'd say no. They said no. And I was like, do you know what? I'm gonna do it.
Wow.
And it was a beautiful journey. I need to get more money so I can make more books.
Yes.
But, I'm looking for funding at the moment. But that first book, I got funding for it. I connected with this incredible illustrator. Like, she just got it. She was like the second person that I spoke to. I did a few interviews. And I just knew that it was her. It was her because she understood everything, like even the spiritual side of things. She'd not experienced the loss of a baby, but she, was talking about
portray it.
Exactly. She knew, she understood the assignment.
Wow.
And it was such a beautiful journey to do it with her. And every time we'd get back together and I'd look at the illustrations, because she'd actually spent hours and hours creating the illustrations. It wasn't none of this AI stuff. It was actually her doing it. And just looking at her, like, oh my God, we'd cry every time because it was like, girl, you understood this. And I didn't even have to go into detail. Like, she just knew.
She knew how to portray what you were feeling in the pages. And trust me, I've seen pictures of the books. Yeah. It looks so amazing. Yeah. Just the wording, the colours as well. You can feel what you're feeling. Like, and I've never had a child, I never had a loss, but I can see exactly what the message is. So that's really beautiful that you've turned something into like a forever memory. That's amazing. And I know it must have not been easy. It must have been really painful, but now you turned something painful into something memorable, something beautiful, something lovable, and you can share that with the world. What's like a country or somewhere that you've had someone purchase a book that kind of surprised you?
Yeah, Thailand.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
They'd moved to Thailand, but that was really, I was like, oh my gosh, wow.
Wow, that's so touching.
Yeah. Also, someone sent one to Nigeria. I've got in Brazil as well, some family that have received that, but
wow.
Yeah.
Impactful.
Yeah.
And would you would you ever think about doing it in different languages, or is that?
Yeah, so that's literally
Okay.
something that I wanted to do. And on the website, it says Portuguese coming soon.
Okay.
Still not done. It's actually a lot of work. I thought it would have been like, oh, you just click here and boom.
Yeah.
No, you literally, like, you will not believe that we had to go page by page. There's 56 pages, right? There are 8 different skin tones. There are, I think, 10 different hair types.
Oh, wow.
No, 2 different hair types and 10 different hair colors or something like. So multiply all of these numbers by the number of pages. That's you literally have to do it bit by bit. I didn't realize it was all of that. And then by the time that my illustrator had finished, I couldn't even afford to pay her for the amount
that she did.
The amount of work that she would have to do after
Yeah.
if I wanted her to do each individual page with each language and da-da-da-da-da. So I ended up doing it myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the Portuguese one's still pending because actually I think I should pay someone to do it because it would just take
quite a lot
me
of work.
too much. And obviously I wanted to do loads of other languages, but at this point I actually need a team. So yeah.
Hey, so, listen, the program is growing, it's getting bigger and bigger.
Yes.
That's a good sign.
Yeah.
So making a children's book, there's a lot going into that. There's a lot you have to think about. What would you say is like some of the biggest challenges you had?
Oh my days. Yeah. So first of all, knowing what print company you're going to use, it can't, like, there's different depending on the type of book you're doing. I'm doing personalized storybooks, so it's not like I could just go to Amazon KPD or like Ingram Sparks. I learned all about these different companies. So I had to try and find a print on demand company. I managed to get the same one that the company that I'd mentioned earlier had, but then they went bust, but they didn't tell me that they went bust. So I remember just getting an email from someone being like, oh, you know, I ordered this book, it's been over 2 weeks. And I'm thinking, what
is happening?
I thought this was already meant to be done. Obviously, I get to see the updates, but they'd never said that it wasn't being sent. And I was like, okay, so what's going on? Then they revealed to me that they've gone bust. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, what am I going to do now? Couldn't find anything. Had to graft and find another company. So that's very important, of course, your distribution. But then like the more simpler stuff, which isn't so simple, is like even the formatting. So for example, the illustrator that I had, she's incredible, but she didn't understand the formatting that was needed to print those children's books. So essentially she sent me a strip of like both pages together, but it was meant to be split. So imagine having to go through all the number of books that I just told you and split each individual thing.
That's mad.
Girl. Oh yeah.
Wow. Dedication.
So it was a lot of work.
Okay. Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing though.
So yeah, more the logistical side of things. Because obviously if you're a writer, you're a creative, you know what feels right when you're writing. You'll know how to edit and those things. I don't think that was too difficult for me because that's something that I enjoyed doing. But more the like, the production and stuff like that. That was very... Can't be PDF, has to be JPEG, like or the other way around, whatever. Oh my
Semantics.
God. Yes.
I couldn't
Oh my goodness, yeah.
So after the book, what came? Is that the creative workshops?
Yeah, no, the creative workshops only came recently. So after the book, a lot of advocacy was happening throughout the book and stuff. But oh my gosh, I do a lot, but I don't even really know how it got here. But yeah, I think the creative writing and the bereavement training that I'm doing for doulas and midwives, that came quite recently because again, when I told you, since I was doing like the lives and listening to people's stories and being like, these things that I'm reading should really just be common sense. Like women should be not being told that you're empty when, you know, their baby's heart. When somebody said, I said, what? How is anyone speaking to you like this? And then I started to do more research and I realized they don't even really do bereavement training as a module at university.
Oh, wow.
It's one day in a 3-year course.
That's crazy.
Make it make sense. How and
Wow.
let's imagine you're a midwife and you're sick that day, so you've now missed. You probably could catch up by reading after, but you've missed the integral part of like when people are speaking or when people are asking questions. And universities don't even really have the budget to even pay for external speakers and stuff like that. But yeah, so that's what came next, was me wanting to go and speak in spaces to educate the people that are going to be meeting us face to face. That's what's really important. And then the creative writing, I just felt like parents need a space where they can talk about their babies freely if they want to. Because when I had counselling, it was very much of like, okay, how do we get past this? How do we move on? And I didn't really want to
actually like being in your feelings and understanding. Fair.
I don't actually want to move on. And like, the thing is, right, we have to separate the fact of like, yeah, you don't always want to be in a rut. You don't always want to be feeling sad, which isn't as easy. But those two things doesn't mean that we have to separate my continued bond with my daughter. Like, how do you separate instead the fact that the trauma isn't my daughter? That's what I wish I was told. I wish I was told that she isn't the trauma. The trauma and the tragedy is what happened to her.
Yeah.
She's still a child who's deserving of love, affection. But this stuff is just not normalized.
It's probably like a societal thing.
It is.
Because obviously women were told, you know, get up and go again, basically, no matter what you go through. So, yeah, I think that mentality is something, I mean, it's centuries and centuries that we've been conditioned to think this way. Yeah. Like, if you lose a baby, you're not, like, fertile enough or you're not woman enough. If you don't want to have kids, it's like there's so many things surrounding this judgment that women have. So, yeah, how switching that off and turning that on, like, would you say it was a lot of self-healing mostly?
To switch that off.
Like that thought process of being like, it's all me.
Exactly. You're right, because instantly I did go into that. I'm not woman enough. I'm not worthy enough. My body failed me. My partner's going to leave me because of it. Like, and that does happen in relationships. Let's be so for real. How did I switch it? I mean, there was just no other way, to be honest, for me, because I don't think I would be here if those thoughts kept still coming through. And I remember I had actually I went into spirituality. I think that's what actually saved me. So I went heavily into spirituality because I was like, ain't no way that I went through this whole pregnancy and that's it for my daughter. That's it. Done. Nothing. So I went to the only place where they spoke about death without it being like, oh, you know, God knows everything, let it go, move on. So I joined this spiritist church and they specifically talk about, you know, dead people like it's normal. Those can you still continue that relationship. They are still your people. You're still a mum. I went to see a medium and that changed my whole perspective on everything. Wow. That man, do you know what? I made a TikTok video about going to see this man. It went viral. So many people asked for his details and he messaged me literally a few months ago being like, oh, Helena, thank you so much. I've just been bombarded by people wanting to see me.
Wow.
It was amazing. Listen, I never posted my pregnancy online because you know that whole thing of like, juju, blah, blah, blah. Never posted it. When my daughter died, I now felt, should I even post about it? How embarrassing. I felt embarrassed, right? And so I went to see him in February 2023. This man, he got everything right. Dylan, like, I don't understand how you could get... And I wasn't physically in front of him. I was speaking to him through Skype. As I said, I hadn't posted anything. So how can he get the date right? How can he get her name right? As in the initials. How can he get the fact that my partner was the one who chose her name? How can he get the thing that stuck with me the most? It wasn't even the stuff that he said about my daughter, which he got so right, like the high blood pressure. How can you get that? I don't understand. Okay, but when he spoke about you have a sister, I said to him, I do not have a sister, sir. And he's like, yes, you do. I was like, okay. And then it's like, and the only reason why your relationship with your sister isn't so strong is because your mom had a miscarriage.
What?
When I tell you, and then he's like, your sister's 21. When I was 7 years old, and I was 28 by the time that I did this reading with him, when I was 7 years old in Portugal, my mum had a miscarriage with a baby who she was like 10 weeks or something. She wasn't fully like, you know, she wasn't big enough for you to know that she was pregnant. So yeah. And then he was telling me a soul is a soul. So all that stuff we were talking about, how they don't care about pregnancy before 24 weeks. A soul is a soul from the moment that they are conceived.
Wow.
And I couldn't not believe that, first of all, because I needed to believe that. But also he gave me way too much evidence for me to be like, this isn't true.
Yeah.
And so how did I switch that off, that thing of like not being woman and just keep going? It was that. It was that, because this is still my child who is essentially still around me and deserves to be acknowledged. Simple as.
It seems very eye-opening. It's probably what God probably, it was like, this is what you need right now in order to...
Unfortunately, I hate the thought, but at the same time, part of the spiritism, they do say life is essentially a lesson, isn't it? I hate it as a thought. I hate it as something that I want to believe, but
everything happens the way it's supposed to, I guess. Sadly.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
That's mad. But you knew about your mom having a miscarriage before?
Yeah, because I remember that. I remember it very specifically because I was an only child.
Yeah.
And I remember, oh my God, I can't wait to have a sibling. And I remember her coming home and telling my auntie. She didn't tell me, she told my auntie. And she described what the baby looked like as well. As in...
Yeah.
Because it was very early, but she said she was in the toilet in the hospital. And I'm gonna have to say, actually, I haven't actually ever said this, but she said it looks like largatisha, like a lizard. That's what she said.
Mad.
And I remember that staying in my head. I was like, how can a baby look like a lizard? At 7, that stayed with me. And then when he was telling me I had a sister, I was like, I do not have a sister because I've only got my brother.
Yeah.
He got her age right. Like, what the heck? I didn't even know it was a sister, for example.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's like an experience, like, I feel like even you explaining it, I'm just like, what? Like,
and you know when you hear people say stories like this, you feel like they're making that shit up.
Nah, that's crazy.
Yeah, he was, I'm telling you.
The connection as well of your daughter and now your sister as well. Like, kind of coming together. But how did you find him? And what made you...
Okay,
look?
So my best friend... She is an atheist or agnostic. She doesn't believe in anything, okay? But her mum and her grandma passed away very close in time in 2020. And of course, when you experience profound grief, because obviously there's grief that you lose somebody and, you know, obviously you feel sad. But essentially after some time, you can just keep going and it's not going to ruin your, like, you're not going to get triggered every now and then. You're not going to get memories of, oh, you know, this person should be here. You're not going to get nightmares. You're not going to get those things that much, right? But profound grief will send you. It will just send you. And she ended up, I don't know how she found him, but she ended up seeing this guy. And when I tell you the way she was telling me, describing to me, no, he knew everything. He knew this, he knew that. For her to say, I believed it because she was telling me, because she's someone who doesn't believe in these things. Ever since I've known her from school days, she doesn't believe in anything, right? We live, we die, and that's it. She went to see this medium. He got everything right.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's so powerful. Like, what?
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say. I'm speechless.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But a good crazy.
Yes.
Okay. And then for your creative workshops, do you usually get parents? Like, do they come as a couple? Do you get a lot of men? Because I feel like obviously the woman is the one that feels it most because she had that life inside of her. But again, dealing with a partner who also has to go through those emotions. Does that happen?
Yeah, so you're right, actually, in the sense of like women mostly are the ones who show up to things like this or feel it a little bit. I won't say more, but feel it in a different way because obviously it was in their, you know, their body and things like that. But the dads, the difference is that they are watching and feeling helpless, right? Not only are they watching, seeing their baby in that way, they're also seeing their partner who sometimes could potentially die in moments like that
That's
as well,
very
right?
true.
So you don't know. It's a different kind of trauma, but then you're also being told, be strong for both of them, be strong for yourself, don't show your emotions. So from, my partner, he always talks about how if he's going to cry, he's going to cry in the corner. He doesn't want me to see him crying and things like that. So when it comes to men showing up to these spaces, it is not many. However, I do have a dad who comes regularly. He himself started an organization called 9. A nod is not enough, because between men, you need to talk about your mental health. So he started that, and it's lovely to have him there. It's nice to have a dad present as well, and seeing how grief impacts dads too. No one's come as a couple, actually. It's mostly just individuals. But I guess also it has to do with what resonates with you. So I think the beauty of the different things that exist for bereaved parents, which is actually a lot now, is that there are different things that connect to different ways of people exploring their grief, right? So I chose creative writing because I think writing is a great way to just express anything, especially something as hard as grief. But then there's other things that do, like walk and talks. So Ebony Bond Support, which is a charity for Black families who've experienced baby loss, they go out on walks, which was actually something that was pinpointed by Black Baby Loss Awareness Week. By an incredible midwife called Midwife. I don't know why I said called Midwife. Her name is not Midwife. By Alicia Burnett. And the next one, just saying for anyone who's watching, is on the 17th of May. So Black Baby Loss Awareness Week's from the 11th to the 17th of May. And I believe the walk in Stratford here in London is on the 17th. But please go look for them online and you'll have this information. But yeah, there's loads of things happening now. Spaces, whether it's WhatsApp groups or anything that feels comfortable for people to just open up, have a helpline to call or anything like that. So
you have a lot of people like approach you at the end of the session and be like, can I talk to you further? What further help can I get?
Not really, because I always have like sheets with different charities that are connected to different things, and I always ask people, if you know any other charities, please let me know, because I'll put it on there. What tends to happen a lot of the times is people, because I try with these sessions you can't really lift the weight, right? But I don't want people to feel heavier as they leave. Obviously, this is not something that you can control, because whatever comes up in your writing, maybe you might feel okay as you're leaving, and then,
of course,
it hits you. But I do try to make it feel like a shared space where people can feel comfortable in whatever way. If it means crying, please cry. It's not saying that people shouldn't cry. It's like, but also feeling like you can speak about your children with the lightness. Something that actually started in 2024 during Baby Loss Awareness Week, which is in October, was doing lives on Instagram. And these lives was about, having a conversation with parents and asking them questions about, what was your pregnancy like when you had your baby? Because no one asks this. Like, we always only think about the loss now, right? We only remember the trauma. But what happened before? What were the dreams and aspirations? Where did you go on holiday? What was your cravings? Why did you choose your baby's name? All of these things matter. How did your baby look when you saw your baby? Did they look more like mum? Did they look more like dad? Things like that are so important, because it then allows us to reframe how we remember our children, like not just remember them as the sadness and the loss, because they are so much more than that. Obviously, that is probably easier to do when you had, when your loss was a bit later, because you are able to make more memories. And also bearing in mind that there's also difficulties for people who've experienced termination for medical reasons, or who knew that their pregnancy would, if their baby was born, they wouldn't really live long enough. It still makes it very jaded, because like, where do you find the moments of happiness? But I still think it's worth revisiting those. And that's why now I say to anyone who is pregnant, have a journal, right? Journal everything that you do in your pregnancy. Not to say that it's going to happen to you, that you'll lose your baby, but you still deserve to have those memories as well, right?
No, 100%.
So,
and with grief being such a roller coaster as well, like, how do you deal with that? Because as time goes on, it could be that you might feel like, oh my God, I don't remember this specific thing about her. Or how do you deal with that? How do you deal with that time moving forward? and, you know, still staying present, still remembering those things, and with the emotions that come, because obviously grief is so unpredictable and it's so different to everyone as well.
Yeah. Time is my worst enemy. I remember, I love your question. I remember laying in the hospital bed and just thinking about how time is my biggest enemy right now, because now it means I want to be as far away from this moment now so I'm not feeling the pain so intensely, but I also don't want to be so far away from this moment because now it's going to be far away from my daughter. And I don't want to, I remember when it'd been what's it called? The milestone of like, now it's been more time away from her than I had her. How hard that was.
Wow.
Even the ticking time of like, I'm going to have to leave this hospital in a couple of days.
Yeah.
I stayed there 5 days. Oh, do I really want to go back into the real world? What do I do now? Like that time frame, the time that I get to spend with her is so short.
Yeah.
I chose not to see her immediately, which I regret deeply. Luckily, I went back to the hospital and I had that time with her. But now I spent 5 days in the hospital. It could have been 5 days with her. Is now shortened to just a few hours, you know. And then, like you said, forgetting things. That is awful.
Do you feel guilty for
Yes.
that?
And I'm just sat there wrecking my brains like, how do I remember how? So that's why when I talk about the creative writing, like writing is so important in general, like journaling, things that come to you. Like if a memory just comes to you, like the other day when I was pregnant with Myla was during the World War Cup 2022.
Yeah.
Brazil. She's half Brazilian, so you know. And I remember buying this top that I'd completely forgot that I bought when I was heavily pregnant, and now it's in my house and it's a relic. Okay, but then I remember the day that Richarlison did that L kick and how gassed I was, and I threw myself on the floor, heavily pregnant. November this was, and that was a memory that I'd forgotten.
Yeah.
But I made sure write that down so that you don't forget that. But yeah, time is awful. It's the biggest enemy. And then the milestones, like 5 years old. Oh my God, what would she be doing at 5? 10 years old. And then knowing that I'm going to have to spend the rest of my life like that is awful. It sucks.
What would you say to the mums that feel that guilt? Because like you said, like you didn't want to see her straight away.
Yeah.
And that decision is not easy.
No.
But how do you deal with that guilt? Because, I mean, I feel like you will still feel a guilt in some sort of way as well. What advice would you give?
Oh, gosh. I would just say, like, we shouldn't be there in the first place, right? We shouldn't have to be dealing with this. So whatever decision we made in that moment, it was all we had, because it shouldn't even have to be a decision that I have to make. Like I shouldn't have to be in this position. So it's so hard. I don't even feel like I have advice for that. It's just like, as much as possible, it is not your fault. But again, what we were saying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fairs. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's deep.
It is, yeah.
Okay, but how was your experience in the hospital? Because obviously touching again on medical racism and how so many women, especially brown and black women, go through getting ignored, their pain getting diminished. You know, how was your experience?
Do you know what's so funny? Like, the more I do this work, the more I realize how badly I had it from the beginning as a black woman.
Yeah.
But I sort of gaslit myself into being like, oh no, I won't be a statistic, or oh no, you know, I gaslit myself into thinking it wasn't about my race somehow.
Yeah.
Even though I know that, you know, it's part of the structure. It's you know, what's it called? What's the word? Institutional racism, right?
Yes,
it's part of the structure of the whole system in itself. Like, I mean, when we think about it, the history of gynecology, I forgot the name of the man now, something Sims.
Yeah, the one that used to experiment.
Exactly. Right, experimenting on black women to find out what it's, you know, all these things, doing things that you don't have to be doing to our bodies, right? Even I was watching on TikTok, there was this midwife from America, and when she was practicing, like in the early 2000s, she was saying how when a black woman had just given birth, everything was fine, normal. And the doctor then came in and was like, oh, would you like to see what it's like to stitch an episiotomy? And then she was like, oh, why would I need to stitch that? There isn't one here.
Yeah.
And then off he went, snipped, and then showed her how it was,
What
you
the
know?
hell?
And it's just so awful. So, yeah, I didn't think that was happening to me until losing Mila, right? Essentially, I lost Mila because I had undiagnosed preeclampsia, which is so fatal, not only for the baby, but also for mum. And I didn't really know what preeclampsia was. I was doing all the research that I needed to be doing. I was learning everything from an app. I thought the midwives would be teaching me stuff. No one was teaching me anything. And also first pregnancy, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what to even ask, which now having a doula is so essential. It's actually essential. And it's sad that, you know, you have to go, you'd expect that the people that institutionally are supposed to be there to support you have this sort of training and are backing you, advocating for you in this way. I'm not saying every midwife is awful, because there's some incredible midwives out there. But yeah, you do need someone who is going to step into that room and be like, okay, we're asking this, and how about this, and why is that not happening? Because when you're pregnant, like, it's exhausting to always have to be advocating for yourself, and sometimes you are advocating and they're still not listening. So when it was with me, when I was reading about preeclampsia, which I found in an app called What to Expect, I read that it was rare. So I was like, if it's rare, why would I be the one, right? You always do that in your head, because it's like, why would it be me? So I kind of read it, but then I thought, okay, it's not going to be me, or I don't know how you can even decide that. But I had the signs, I had the swollen legs. My mom even said, oh, your legs are really swollen. I was like, oh, they say this is normal. Like, isn't it normal? Then I had really high blood pressure. Every time I'm being measured, first of all, they should tell you why they're doing your blood pressure. Like, why does it matter? They don't have these conversations with you. I understand they don't have much time, but in the moment that you're doing it, oh, we're just checking your blood pressure because this. And we don't want this, or watching out for this. Right. I had protein in my urine from the beginning of my pregnancy, actually. And protein is a telltale sign of preeclampsia. And I asked them, what does this mean? I remember asking that about 3 times. What does it mean? And I didn't really get an answer. Oh, just do another test, until essentially the protein had disappeared, essentially. And so I Googled it. It was too much information I wasn't understanding, so I just let it go. I thought protein in my head is when you eat meat. Protein is meat. So like, surely am I eating too much meat and I'm not eating enough? You know. So, and I had a headache, but the headache only came on the day, that I properly remember, on the day that I went into labor. And so black women, which I found out last year, 6 times more likely to get preeclampsia. 6 times more likely.
6 times.
So surely I should have known what preeclampsia is. Even if I didn't have preeclampsia, I should know. That is my right to know. And I think part of the problem is that they don't think about personalized care. They don't think about the things that affect individual people, and just tell them, what's so wrong to tell me this is what preeclampsia is. And if you notice these signs, this is what you should do. Come in straight away. They've got these amazing wallets by an incredible charity called Mama Academy. And it tells you different symptoms that you should be watching out for, but they don't really tell you the why. And it's like, and sometimes, like, in pregnancy, the way your memory just goes, or like too much information, you can't always retain all of the things, right? So it's like, just tell us, this is why this was made. This wallet was made for this. Watch out for these things, and why you should watch out for these things, right? So yeah, and because as a black woman who had preeclampsia and whose daughter died as a result of that, I feel like I was failed racially as well, because it's something that affects my race 6 times more. So I should have known. Why didn't I know?